Awesome. Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks so much for coming back again, joining us for part 3 of building a next-gen agency. This workshop series is all about positioning your agency for success, no matter what's going on in the industry. Today's topic is redefining traditional business processes. Why did I choose this topic? So I'm going to jump into that a little bit, and then I will hand off to Mike, and Mike will walk us through this. So actually, I've been getting a lot of feedback from you guys, and not just you guys, really all around Workamajig clients. There's been a lot of really valuable and important talk about AI integrations recently, new AI tools, AI softwares, and yes, I believe that is definitely something that's really important. Us at Workamajig, we're also been investing a lot of time and effort in R&D when it comes to AI and how we can integrate and what's the best AI that we could use. But I've had this feeling that we're kind of losing sight of something really important. I feel like it could be that many agencies are approaching this change backwards. They've been focusing primarily on AI before actually looking back at their number one, their core tech stack, number two, their talent, and number three, their business processes. People are racing, they're underinvesting in existing infrastructure, which makes work, namely clean, up-to-date data, integrated systems, and empowered teams. That's something which to me personally is also super important. And I feel like it is time to take a step back and let's review what we have. Let's review the systems that we have, the integrations that we have in place, the processes that we have, how we're inputting our data, how we're getting it into our system. And I think that is something which is always helpful. It's great for the business and it's definitely very beneficial for the employees in the business. We'll try to, the one side point which I was thinking is, honestly, any AI tool which we're going to bring in the future, whether it's on our side, whether it's on your side, that AI tool is only going to benefit from you having cleaner data, more accurate data, better processes in place, because anything that we're going to bring in later on is just going to be built on what the current system and the current processes are. And the better that system and the better that process is, that's how much we're going to get out of any AI or the next big tool that comes up after AI, because we know that AI is coming and there's going to be some big boom after that too. So whatever we bring in is definitely going to be built on whatever we currently have. So for today's sessions, we're going to split it to two conversations. The first conversation is grounding innovation, real world foundation of agency success. We're going to bring Mike on. Mike's going to discuss more from the software side of it, your current software, your integrations, how things are flowing smoothly. And then just after that, we're going to have a second session with Lynn Porter, Brooke and Mohammed. They're going to jump on. Thanks so much for jumping on with us today, Brooke and Mohammed. We definitely appreciate it. And we're going to discuss more from the employee and the process standpoint. Just a few quick notes, and I am handing it over. Questions for sure. You guys know already. You guys have any questions? Drop it in the Q&A. Drop it in the chat. Comments, thoughts. We want to hear it all. I love to hear your feedback. I love to hear what you agree with, and if you disagree with something, definitely drop it in the chat too. We'd love to hear about that. Chat is open for everyone. I will be sending out a recording after the session. It does typically take us a couple of days to turn it around, but we will get it. I will send it out together with last week's session. Just quick agenda for today. So we have first session with Mike. We're going to start now. We're going to run for about 45 minutes. We'll have a quick break, 10, 15 minutes. If you need to grab a coffee or something, feel free to jump off. If you want to hang out in the room with me, I'd love that too. Right after that, we'll have Lynn Porter from Workamajig is gonna moderate our next session with Brooke and Mohammed. So we're gonna start that at the top of the hour. And Mike, the floor is yours.
Great, Ruben. Appreciate it, and welcome everybody to this session. And I think it's an interesting session. Is we're going to be talking about change. And, for the last 25 years, that's been one of the biggest things that I run into. And Ruben mentioned software, and changing in software. And, the change is hard to adapt when you're upsetting the apple cart and you're changing processes, you're introducing new ideas and thoughts to the agency when it comes to software. But many of you guys are already embedded in your software. So where does change involve you guys? Well, change is beyond just software. It could really affect change in a lot of events in an agency. It could be a change in clients. Okay, clients are exiting, clients are coming on board, and you need to understand that change. What do I need to do to adapt? Why did I lose that client? What do I need to change? Or I'm bringing on a new client, and what do I need to change in terms of what I'm doing to be able to service them better? Are we doing something different? We need to think about that. Think about change too, when maybe from a personnel standpoint, you're hiring new people into the agency and you need to introduce them and bring them into the workflow. Okay, so changing and bringing people in and adapting them to what you have is part of this as well. So, and it could be assessing what you're currently doing and understanding that we need to pivot and move forward and change there. Okay, agencies should be very agile in the way they operate. The way you operated 15 years ago, 5 years ago, could be completely different than we are today. Tech is changing so fast, and we're being inundated with so many different new things now. You have to be adaptable and be able to move forward to maintain productivity and operational efficiency in what you're doing. Okay, so there's a lot of scenarios that can come up in day to day in an agency that you need to prepare yourself, in terms of change. So what we're going to talk about, this is pretty high level. A lot of it is just very basic in its thinking, but it probably needs to be addressed, and it's good to have it all consolidated into one place so we can discuss this. So as we're talking about change, the biggest problem is people's fear of changing and the resistance that people encounter when it comes to change. It's generally, met with negativity, but there's ways to overcome that and make it positive and make it effective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be talking about really 7 key points that are going to help if you keep these in mind as you're introducing change to whatever the scenario is in your agency. Okay, number one, very simply, is you need to communicate, and you need to be very transparent in this communication to the people, and you need to communicate frequently. Number one is you definitely need to clarify the reasons for making this change. Why are we doing that? Explain the why, the what, and the how we're going to be able to accomplish this. It's not a surprise tactic that you're gonna just drop on people and say, "Hey, this is what we're going to be doing." Okay, we're changing, we're modifying. Okay, bring everybody on board and explain and be very transparent of why you're making the change. Okay. And when you're doing that, there's multiple ways to communicate now uh, in the agency world. Use those channels of communication that everybody is using. So emails, Slack, Teams, all of those different paths that we use to communicate. Don't overlook one-on-ones, especially for those that are going to be impacted the most. Sit down with somebody face to face and have them understand the direction you're moving in, what you're going to be doing, and what the eventual outcome and the benefit is going to be there. Okay. And any kind of visual aids that is, available is just very well received. People love to hear and they love to see. It's the best way to learn. Touching multiple senses, that's going to be a great way to have success. And also encourage questions, okay? Two-way dialogue, okay? And allow people to be open, okay? Let them voice their concerns. Okay, and that will allow us to create paths to make sure that we're overcoming any resistance, okay, and moving forward when it comes to that change. So again, number one in our 7 steps is communicate transparently and frequently. Okay. Number 2, and I think this is really important, and is involve the team.
Mike, do you have a slide for this?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Sure,
Um,
thank you.
I thought for some reason, it's not moving forward. That's why I apologize. There it goes.
Oh,
Okay.
okay,
So we just talked about this. Okay.
good.
We just talked about this. All right. Next is involve your team members early. Okay. And, depending on the type of change, it might be a very small group of people that are going to have ownership in this. It could be a larger group. Make a decision of who should be on the team as you push through this change. And again, bring them in early. Okay. Let's make decisions as a team. That team should be consist of really all roles in all levels within the agency, everybody that's going to be impacted. Okay. Now, if it's a larger decision, maybe you create representation of various teams. Okay. And let those team members kind of go back and feed the information to their peers or their group or their department. Okay. But again, everybody should be involved. It shouldn't be dictatorial in its decisions at all. It should be uniform together in the way we do this. You should meet regularly and provide feedback regularly. Feedback and information from everybody is going to be very impactful to making this change successful. Okay. And also having teams represented from multiple areas that are going to be involved creates a sense of ownership. Okay, I'm involved. I see how it's going to impact me. I'm going to be able to express my opinions, and hopefully, uniformly, all of this together is going to create, success, and is going to eliminate, that wall that people tend to throw up when change is coming down the line. Okay. And it's also think about assigning what I call maybe a champion in the process. So maybe somebody in the group that has some experience with what's going on, somebody that has maybe utilized this tool or this process somewhere else and can be able to effectively communicate back, this is the reason why we're making this, and what the overall benefit is going to be moving forward. Okay. Also, when gathering feedback, use other methods, kind of like when I said earlier, communicating by multiple channels. There's other methods to gain feedback. There could be the team meeting frequently on a one-to-one, but don't forget the outside people that are going to be involved too, and maybe indirectly get their feedback. It could be, a survey. Maybe initially you want to do that. Maybe a larger group meeting to give information back, a progress report. Those things are always very important in moving forward from that. So again, the second item is involve team members early. Okay, the third is provide training and support. Okay. Very easy to assume this, but it's important. So as things are getting changed and things are being adopted and moving forward, you know, provide resources to everyone to learn, okay, and understand. So if it's a dramatic shift from one process to another, provide those resources that are going to allow people, to understand it and, be able to ask questions. When it comes to software, we've all been there, understanding, how things are going to get done, how to use it. Now, things are changing, as I said, very quickly in the agency world. If you're already an established Workamajig user, and you're saying, well, I've already established this, but think about it. The software's changing, new features are added, okay, and adopted. Okay, so I challenge those that have actually been using the software a while is maybe to step back and say, okay, are we using it to the best of our ability? Is there something that I'm not aware of that I should take advantage of to make my agency better? Okay. It's very easy to get static in your approach and your usage of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, not only in your software, but other process in there. It's very easy. You're busy. There's a lot of things going on, but it's good to step back and maybe do a quick gut check of what's going on and how I can be better. Okay. And that's a change. And if you adopt that, okay, we need to go ahead and help people understand and train them accordingly. Okay. Um,
Mike, I'm going to jump in here quickly.
yeah.
I know for us, when it comes to providing training and support, one additional thing that we're very strict about in Workamajig is whenever we bring in either a new piece of software or if we bring in really a new process within our software, we're always very careful about assigning one person to documentation, to document the change, document the process, but not just for a personal note, but a note that's going to stay around the agency. That if there's any new people that are going to join that process or any new people that are going to join that software, they have everything documented and clear. I'm actually curious to hear if any other agencies use this also. Definitely drop some comments in the chat. I'm curious to hear if we're the only ones out there.
Yeah, and that's a great point when this, and I'm gonna allude back to my years of experience in software and software implementation and onboarding. I've seen some of the most successful adoptions and change related to that, where, as I mentioned earlier, it's establishing a champion, okay, or champions, okay, within an agency. And where I saw the success is designate an in-house expert that's going to lead the change, coach people, but also moving forward will be consistently as part of their roles and responsibility is how we can keep things going, maintain better processes, maintaining with changes in the software or whatever it is, and keeping those moving forward. Okay. And so you have an in-house resource that anybody could go to and say, hey, I need some help with this. Can you coach me on this? Could you mentor? New employees have a resource that they can go to and you can spend time with and say, okay, this is going to be impactful to your day to day and your role, and to be able to succeed and benefit yourself and the agency and clients and everything. This is what we're going to be going through. Okay, so having some ownership internally, a coach or coaches based on role. So again, I've seen it very effectively where maybe on the workflow project management side, you have one or two champions, okay, or coaches. Maybe you have an operational champion, and maybe other resources, media or whatever, you bring everybody in and those are your in-house experts that can be very helpful, at all stages in adopting the change related to whatever it is. And again, keep in mind what I'm talking about here is applicable to, again, software or other processes as well. Okay. So having those coaches is really important, and also accessible help. And I think that's what Ruben was just talking about. Have documented processes that you can sit down and document the flow of what's going on in there. But it also may be, a help doc, FAQs or whatever. I mean, Workamajig is very good at their help files. So if you ever have any questions about what's going on, you can look that up. Think about developing something that internally. Also, support channels. Workamajig support is a huge benefit in terms of getting questions answered. As you're making change, what we're doing, and getting those. And then there's other resources that are provided. Workamajig has boot camps, webinars like we're having today. All of those are helpful in flattening the curve when it comes to change, understanding what's going on and why we're doing what we're doing. Okay. So that's the third item, is providing training and support. Okay. Last is more getting involved on the human side in terms of the next one. I'm sorry, not the last one, is acknowledge and address emotions. Okay. As I said, change is generally negatively received. It's just a word that just change goes with negative. We want to flip that and go to the positive. So again, as you establish, the teams and the people, and I said early on, communicate, sit down and understand, do you have concerns? What are they? Okay, let's talk through these. Are they valid concerns? If they are, okay, then we're going to create a clear path to make sure that we don't disrupt, you know, you or a group of people going forward. Demonstrate empathy. Don't go be dictatorial, like I said, and said, this is what you're going to do. You're going to do it and you're going to like it. Okay. You're going to shoot yourself in the foot by taking that mentality and that change. It's not going to go over well. So demonstrate empathy. Okay. And also, change is better adapted if you break it down, and I'll talk about this in a minute. You break it down into very manageable, small processes. Okay, break it down into very milestones that can be celebrated. They're measured so that people feel like, yes, we're accomplishing something and we're seeing the path forward that's going to have that positive impact. Okay. So, again, that's number 4, is acknowledge and address emotions. And that's really everybody that's going to be involved. The next one is lead by example. And I think this is really, really, really important. One of the things that I have seen over the years is decisions about change are often made or initiated by leadership. Okay. But what happens is they make the decision, we're going to make a change and adopt something or add something or modify something, but then they step away and it's not applicable to them. So the staff or the others below leadership, they're looking at it like going, well, if you don't do it, why do I have to do it? Okay. So it's very important for leadership to set an example. Okay. And because eyes are on you, especially if you're changing something pretty dramatically, the fact is that leadership is carrying through with their decision. They're adopting what they're doing, then people are going to tend to adopt it as well. They understand why. Okay. And they're going to move forward positively because leadership is carrying forward with their decisions and doing that. So it's, they definitely need to lead by example, and they definitely need to demonstrate commitment to what they're doing as the change is made. Okay. Also, very simply, stay visible and be accessible. Okay. Have an open door. Okay. So if people are questioning certain things, they have a sounding board, a place to go. And again, it goes back to what I said very beginning, being able to communicate openly, okay? And just be visible, okay, and available to everyone that's involved in the change. And again, it could be a small group or a larger group, depending on what that change is. Okay. And thirdly, be adaptable, be flexible, okay, and be willing to adjust when necessary and appropriate. Okay. Changes is as I said, can be disruptive. It can be difficult. Okay. Your end goal might change during the process. You may have thought, hey, this is the outcome that we had planned. But during this process, we've decided to pivot, or there's something that it's gonna change as we make the change. Okay. This again also kind of emphasizes breaking the process into milestones, maybe setting up at each milestone and say, okay, did what we just do, did that align with our intended outcome? Okay. If it is, okay, then we can move to the next phase. Check that one off. But if not, let's sit down and go back through our change processes again. Okay, where are the ramifications that people are expressing? What are the pitfalls that we saw? What do we do? So always be open, available, adaptable, be changeable. Okay, don't be so rigid in what the process is going to be. Again, be adaptable to the process. Okay, so that's number 5 out of the 7 is lead by example. Very, very important to have success when it comes to the adoption of change. Number 6, very simply, set clear expectations and milestones. It's what I was just referring to, those milestones. Break the process into phases. It's much easier to manage. You're going to get much more valuable input, much more valuable feedback, and you're going to have your chances of success are going to be greater if you do that. Don't just go ahead and push all of this out at once and just, hope for the best. Break it down into easy, manageable, measurable phases and milestones. Okay. And then track the progress with regular updates. Okay. Give feedback. Okay. These terms I'm using over and over again, you're hearing it, are very important. Again, it goes back to the very first thing I said is communicate transparently and effective. All of this is progressing through what I'm talking about here.
What do
Okay.
you mean, Mike? Can I ask you, what do you mean by give feedback?
Give feedback. Okay. As we're making this change, let people know where we stand. Okay. In here. So, as I said, you have milestones, give feedback on where we are in the process. And it goes back to what I was also saying is if you have a team, okay, you've got 2 people that are going to be directly involved in the change process. Okay, they are going to be aware of the updates and the progress. But if this change is going to affect a larger group of people, potentially the entire agency, they should be getting some kind of update and feedback on the process. Okay.
Got you.
It goes back to, understanding, what the end result is and the outcome. Okay. And communicating as it's moving along is just going to keep people in the loop, and they're going to have better understanding of what's going on and better success in the end. Okay. And then thirdly here is you want to link your change to your overall agency goals. goes back again to what we said is the why we're making the change. There's an end goal in mind. Okay. So we always want to remind people as we're communicating that we're making this change because of this. This is what we're trying to accomplish. Okay. And again, it could be related to a certain team, role, department. It could be the entire agency, but keep emphasizing the end result of the change and why we're making the change. Okay. So that's number 6, is to just be very clear, open, set those expectations, communicate those, break things down into very manageable milestones, okay, which will help keeping the process moving forward. And the last item here is reinforce positive behavior, okay? And as I said earlier, change can oftentimes be, it could be felt very negatively. Why I don't want to change. I like what I'm doing. I'm comfortable what I'm doing. It's keep it positive, and there are things you can do to kind of keep that positivity going. Okay. You know, you can think about incentivizing engagement. Okay. In that, you can use recognition, rewards, or growth opportunities. Okay. So instead of, creating a negative impact, you know, having people understand why you're doing it and then reinforcing positive behavior, um, is going to be very beneficial. People like to be recognized. They like to be rewarded. A lot of people like that carrot, that brass ring that they're chasing in there. It's just people like that. Okay. So creating that environment is going to help the change and help it from a positive aspect. Okay. Second item is build a positive narrative. Okay. Be very positive, be very open, be very upfront of the change. Create the culture that change is good. Emphasize to everybody consistently the benefits of the change and the short term and long term vision. Okay. Those short term positive visions could be built around those measurable steps that we break down to, those milestones. Okay. And then, Ruben, you asked about communicating maybe to a larger group. That's the constant, emphasis on the long term vision of what we're doing. Okay.
Actually, the
Um,
bigger value to the company.
Exactly, exactly. What is the big value at the end of the day? Okay. And then you also want to, what I say is called foster resilience. You want to create a culture that sees the change as something positive and a growth opportunity. Okay. You want to do that. And this is not something, I'll be honest with you, um, you want to do around just an engaged change event. Okay. Everything I'm mentioning right now is going to help that change. But a lot of what I'm talking about is how, if you put these items in place, you establish and you carry these things out consistently. Okay. Even when there's no change going on in the agency, but you're fostering that culture, okay, of growth, communication, lead by example. If you continue with that, when those events of change come up, your chances of success are going to be so much greater in what you do. Okay. So again, that for what we're talking about here is, very quickly, I'm just going to recap the 7 items that relate to change. Okay. But I want you guys to walk away with this, hopefully hearing me to say embedded in these 7 steps are key behavioral items that leaders in an agency should have, department managers should have, even staff. So as changes come about, okay, we've built a base of success moving forward. Let's walk away, okay, from that feeling of change being negative, okay, and create a culture that change is good. Okay. We're seeing a lot of changes right now. I mean, AI, Ruben mentioned AI at the beginning, and people got their head on a swivel right now. AI what? AI where? What's going here? When's it coming? Where's it coming? Okay. And it's coming at us fast and furiously. Okay. We should be prepared, but we're at a tipping point right now. Really, nobody really knows what's coming down the pike right now. Nobody really knows yet. We're still kind of in a wait and see mode. Okay. But as these changes are coming, we can prepare ourselves. Okay. So I'm going to quickly go through these 7 steps again. Just so we can summarize these, and then we can open this up for any kind of questions that you may have. So number 1, really, really important, is communicate transparently and frequently. Number 2 is involve the team members early on and keep them involved throughout the process. Okay. And those members of the team should be people that own the change. Number 3, provide adequate training and support. Okay. And that should be continuous. It shouldn't stop when the change is adopted. Okay. It should be continuous. Foster that environment by providing training and support through whatever tools are available to you. Number 4, acknowledge and address people's emotions. Okay. There are going to be different thoughts. People are going to adapt differently. Okay. Be open and not acknowledge those. Create paths for communication. Okay. And we can take that. Number 5, lead by example. Mention how important that is. Okay. Leaders need to be, leading. Okay. People are looking to them for inspiration, ideas. Okay. The whys, what's and hows. Lead by example. Number 6 is set clear expectations and milestones. Okay. What is the short-term vision of what we're doing? And what is the long-term vision of what we're doing? Okay. In the short term, this is what we're trying to accomplish. These are the benefits. The long term, this is what we're trying to accomplish. And these are what those benefits are. And lastly, number 7 is reinforce positive behavior. Okay. As change is going about, okay, and we should be able to measure it. We should be able to then reward positively based on adoption and engagement. Keep that mindset, and also keep a positive culture. Okay. Overcome the negativity of change by creating a positive culture. Okay. And communicate constantly of what the purpose of that change is, creating, opportunities for growth, both professionally on an individual basis, but also for the agency culture overall. And another thing that I want to mention is don't be afraid to communicate this change to those that are paying your bills, your clients. Okay. Don't if it indirectly affects them or even directly, it might be a good idea to involve them as well. Let them know a change is coming. Okay. If you are changing software and processes, procedures, maybe communication, okay, maybe a document. Okay. Well, simply put, I mean, I've seen this happen in some experience. I saw, I've seen agencies change systems. Maybe their invoice formats are going to change. Okay. Minorly, but they change. I've seen agencies not tell their clients, and the clients say, well, this is different. What's going on? I don't, and all of a sudden it's created kind of some negative feedback. Open up saying, hey, we're making changes and we're doing this to be a better agency. And when we're a better agency, we can serve you better. And we're doing this so you can be a better client and we can create that better, stronger partnership. So again, don't keep this just internally. If it's going to affect, your clients or others outside the agency, keep those in the loop as well. Okay. So those are the 7 steps to manage change, and to, potentially overcome the ongoing resistance to change that we always see, as we're moving forward. So, love to answer any questions, open this up for some shared dialogue, whatever you guys want to do. But I do want to say thank you for your time, and I appreciate you letting me get on my soapbox for this time.
Thank you, Mike. That was awesome. I definitely appreciate the clarity. That was really neat. I got a question for you,
Okay.
and I don't mean to pull in the negative over here. But in my experience being around, whenever there's some sort of significant change going on in any agency, there is almost always at least one employee who's very resistant to change. We're talking about a change which we know is globally great for the company. How do you deal with that employee that's just not open to this change?
Well, I will, Ruben, I would say that anytime that you're going to have change, you're going to always have that negative Nelly. You're going to have it. It's impossible to get over. There's always somebody that's doing it. But it goes back to what I said, is that open, positive culture. Have that open door policy. Okay. Um, the worst thing you could do is you're gonna do this, and damn it, you're gonna do this. I don't care what you say, you're gonna do it. It's either this way or the highway. Okay. I think that's kind of playing into the negativity. Okay. So again, have that open door policy, that create that positive culture. Also, again, lead by example. If they're negative, but they see, their peers or the people that they report to, actively engaging and adopting and understanding, but also communicating. Okay. If you're a leader, again, don't just do it, communicate why you're doing it. Okay. But again, I think it's all about communication and understand their reason of their negativity. Okay. Some of it may be you're able to overcome. Some of it just may be who they are. Okay. I mean, I hate to say that, but we have all dealt with those people. But as much as you could lay out to them of why that change is from a positive nature, I think you're going to get a little bit of headway that way.
Gotcha. I like that, Mike. Thank you.